Hey guys, what's going on? This is Tom with the Strength Agenda, talking more training, talking getting you better for your competitions. We received some questions from our Insta story the other day about supercompensation and exactly what is it. So we figured we'd go over it a little bit for you, give you guys a rundown of how we incorporate supercompensation into our training and get people ready for their big competitions. So essentially speaking, supercompensation is a type of peaking. I learned this from Glenn Penley back when I was at MDUSA in California Strength, and then when I was with Rudy Nielsen, we kind of perfected it, tweaked it a little bit to fit what I was doing at the time, and now we're incorporating it into our weightlifters here at the Strength Agenda. So what is it? It is a 4-phase program. The first phase of supercompensation is the application of stress. This is essentially the time of the training where the volume is very high. We'll do it anywhere from 6 to 4 weeks out. That is kind of the sweet spot that I've come to find with athletes. Out from a big competition, circle an event on your calendar that you're going to peak for, and then starting 6 weeks out to about 4 weeks out, you're going to beat the body down with volume, whether it's percentages, whether it's reps, whatever your sport needs. That's when you're going to do it. You're going to be feeling like crap. The words, I hate this, I suck, I can't make a lift, I shouldn't compete, etc., 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 is all going to come out of your mouth. It's come out of my mouth, and I knew what was going on at the time. So you're not going to be feeling great. Physically, you're going to feel beat down. Mentally, you're going to be feeling beat down, but it's all part of the process, and that's in phase 1, which is the application of stress. Second phase is after that kind of all that volume and that beat down occurs, active recovery. I'm not a huge fan of the term, but I can't think of anything better. It's where you start peeling back the volume. You kind of let the body recover a little bit. You let the body adapt to that beat down that you just put it through, and your body starts to kind of come around. You start feeling a little bit fresher. You're not as sore, you're not as tired from training sessions, and it gets better the closer you get to the competition. Then you have what is that rebound effect or that competition time. So whatever the event is that you are peaking your body for, right around that time, about a week out or so, or the week of, you should be feeling pretty darn good. I like to call this the juggernaut effect, where if I could put anything in front of you, you will destroy it. So that's that'll come after the application of stress, and about 6 to 4 weeks out, and then about 3 weeks of that active recovery. Then you have competition time where you are feeling good. Now, the part that is, the crucial point to this is a detraining phase. No matter who you are, no matter what kind of a special assistance you have going on, you're not going to be able to maintain that peak forever. So there's going to be a point where the body is going to crash, levels are going to drop, you're going to kind of back off a little bit, and you're going to need to kind of just unload, deload, detraining, whatever. This period is dependent on the athlete. It could be a little bit longer, could be a little bit, shorter, just depends on where you're at in your training and how beat up you were from the beginning of this phase. Now, special snowflakes. All we're simply talking about here is different needs for different athletes. As a coach, it is your job to figure out what works best for your athletes and what will set them up for the best success. Depending on the athlete and how well adapted they are to training, you're either going to increase or decrease the intensity during that application of stress period. The big thing with this is timing. You're probably not going to nail it on the first run. You're going to have to try this 2 or 3 times to see what works best for certain athletes. My 3 athletes that qualified for the American Open last year, I had run about 2 or 3 peaks with them, and so I kind of have those 3 athletes figured out, but now I have a whole nother slew of athletes that are starting to qualify for national events, so I have to run this a couple times to see how their body responds and make adjustments as we go. Like I said, you're going to make multiple runs of it before you figure out what works best for that athlete. And just like with any type of periodized progression or peaking, you don't want to do it more than 2 or 3 times a year. The body is not made to handle peaking and that much volume and that much stress more than 2 or 3 times a year, just like with cutting weight. So if you're going to be cutting weight while doing this, only do it about 2 or 3 times a year. Anything more than that, you're just asking for trouble, and the results are not going to be what you're hoping they will be. I can't stress this enough, but I repeat, do not do it back to back. You are asking for trouble, you are asking for very poor results, and there's really nothing I can do to help you if you end up running this back to back. Depending on the athlete, the length of the phases. Some athletes can handle volume, can handle stress a lot better than others. They may be able to do a little bit of a longer application of stress period. Other athletes might not be able to, so you'll have to peel that back. Again, as a coach, it is your job to figure out what works well for your athletes and what doesn't. The other thing to keep in mind is during this rebound, how long does it take for their body to bounce back after that application of stress period? And then how long can they hold that peak essentially? Some people may only be able to hold it for a couple days, others may be able to hold it for a week and a half. It just depends on the athlete and how they adapted to the program. Again, make notes, get a training log out. Make sure they're recording how they're feeling on each day. Make sure you're recording anything that you see, whether it's in their training or how they're carrying themselves in the gym or anything along those lines. And then the loss of the effect, just making sure that during this detraining phase, you kind of give their bodies an adequate time to recover. Again, that's going to depend on the athlete and what all they got going on. Other things to keep in mind is a lot of your athletes are probably not full-time training. They have jobs, they have school, they have all sorts of life stressors going on. So that's going to factor into how long it takes them to adapt to each of these phases and how well they respond to a supercompensation period. And then last but not least, is the athlete healthy? Should they be doing this in the first place? If your athlete isn't healthy, they're dealing with a nagging injury, they haven't been able to devote the full amount of training that you need for them to get ready for a competition, this may not be a good idea. Keep that in mind too. As a coach, again, it is your job to determine what is best for the athlete. So, are they healthy? It's a simple yes or no. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they're not healthy, don't run them through this. If they are, let them run through this. Make sure you're tracking and recording how they're operating, and you'll be able to adjust the next few runs of this when you do it. So in review again, supercompensation is to peak an athlete for a big competition. You only want to do it about 2 or 3 times a year. It has 4 phases. You have your application of stress, which is essentially where you beat the body up with volume, intensity, etc. Then you have your active recovery phase, which is a couple weeks following the application of stress, where you're kind of letting the body rebound a little bit. You're letting that body recover from the beatdown you put it through. Your rebound, getting yourself ready to go for that big competition. Following the competition, you have your detraining. You have your downtime where your body is allowed to just kind of recover from that big stress you just put it through. Keep all these things in mind for different athletes. It's going to vary from athlete to athlete. Hopefully that answers your guys' questions. If you have any other questions about this or any other topics, go ahead, please comment below or find us on our social media. Hopefully this helped you guys out, all right? Take care.